I'm Richard Randall, and welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She is your voice and the host of this program as well. It's the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, many properties in Colorado have homeowners associations and dues related to those associations. So, what are some of the top things a potential home buyer should know about those homeowner associations?
Well, Richard, one thing that's definitely for sure right now is everything's getting more expensive. Homeowners insurance is getting expensive. HOA dues are going up quite a bit and they're covering less. And we actually own a condo here in town. And last year we had to pay an extra, I think it was like $700, what they call a special assessment, because they had to repave the driveways within the community. So that was one extra cost. And last year they had raised the dues because they're saying, well, the homeowner's insurance premium is a lot more expensive for an attached building. Okay, so they raised it probably $60. And then here we are a year later, and they raised it again, $150. And I'm like, come on, you guys, when is this going to end? And I would think it has a negative impact over time as the dues go higher and higher on what a buyer might be willing to pay if we're going to sell the property. So, and it's something that you can't control. It's kind of a forced expense. So what I'm seeing in a lot of the attached buildings, I've talked to some clients that have either a townhome or, um, a condo or something like that, an attached building of some sort, that all of a sudden their dues are going up, and it's going up over insurance mostly. So if you're a buyer or a seller, you need to know what your HOA dues cover. I actually had an experience that you remember back in, I think it was 2016, when we had that monster hailstorm that just destroyed half the East County. Remember that, Richard?
I was going to say that is probably the worst one. We have hailstorms. I think that may have been the worst one we had to endure here.
It was something. And I remember driving through the neighborhoods of people that had vinyl siding. It looked like somebody took a shotgun to the side of the building. It was terrible. But windows were blown out. I mean, you name it. So, um, for the properties that were attached or townhomes, if you didn't buy this special extra insurance, I think it's called HOV, which covers any special assessments, the roof claim was not covered. So each one of these homeowners in these HOA communities had to pony up an extra $7,000-8,000 to replace their roof because the insurance for the HOA was inadequate to cover it. And so that's some things that you need to know about as a owner, especially in a community that has an attached building. And actually, there are rules, there are state laws that cover this. So in the state of Colorado, I think this was passed back in 2005, a law that basically says that the seller is obligated to disclose all of the documents about the HOA. So a lot of this stuff is not publicly available. Some of the HOAs have it up on their website, some do not. Some go through a management company and you have to pay a lot of money to get your hands on them. I mean, it's not very consistent or regulated. So it's kind of one of the banes of our work that we have to do every week when we get a property that has an HOA. I have to ask the seller, hey, log into your account, because as an owner, you should have access to all these documents. Download them. That way we don't have to pay the management company to send them to us. But the things that are required to be disclosed, which are the covenants. Now, the covenants or the rules of the neighborhood are recorded, so we can get that from the title company. But all the other stuff, the rules about the HOA, the bylaws, the minutes to the meetings, the minutes, the annual meeting minutes, the insurance for the HOA, the financials for the HOA, all that stuff has to be shared with the buyer. And it's a state law. And if they don't share it, they could fine you a lot of money down the road if the buyer chose to sue you. So it's very important that you know about that stuff and have your fingertips on it. I just had a seller last weekend that said, here's my login, you pull it down. This is too much work. And I'm like, that's fine, we'll take care of it. But the law requires the disclosure, and the buyer has an opportunity to decide whether or not they want to move forward with the property like that, looking at the rules of the HOA. What the buyer should be looking for are special assessments, whether or not they can live with the rules. As an example, if they want to park an RV outside and the HOA says you can't do that, they need to know that up front. They should be reading what the rules are. If they can't have a trailer in their backyard, they need to know that. They also should look at the financials. There have been some homeowners associations that had an obligation with the way they structured the HOA to maintain the outside of these properties, like the siding and the windows and the roof. They have to have a lot of reserve money in case there's a hail disaster to do that. So you need to look at that and make sure that they have enough reserves. We had a buyer walk away from a closing a couple years back because they had underfunded what they were supposed to be setting aside for this attached building. And it turned out it was a lot more money than the buyer expected. So they bailed on the house. So that's what you're looking for, and whether or not the HOA is in a lawsuit, which is kind of uncommon, actually. Now, why should a buyer care about its financials? Because you don't want to have to write an extra check for things that you're not expecting. Every owner is going to have their own version of homeowners insurance for casualty. But if the HOA allegedly takes care of the roof and you don't have that HOV, that extra policy to cover you, I have a client right now where it's a small townhome community, and when they had to replace the roof, the total bill for all of those units was over $1 million. And the owners in that community that didn't have that extra insurance had to write checks or get liens for over $11,000 to replace their roof. Well, you know how many times we have hail damage here, Richard. Nobody wants to do that on an annual basis. What do you think?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, hail is not uncommon. It's absolutely common. It's just a question of when and how bad it's going to be and whether it hits your part of town.
Exactly. And it's good if you're a seller to disclose that kind of stuff for sure, and make sure that they're fully aware. Like, let's say the HOA proposed that they're going to raise the dues, but it hasn't happened yet. You should disclose that because it's going to be somewhere in the meeting minutes. It's always good for buyers to be able to purchase a property and have all the information at their fingertips before they close on the house. Otherwise, you just don't want a contest down the road. And so some other things that are really important to look at are, what does it cover? Little things like that. Does it cover trash removal, snow removal? What are my obligations? Like when we bought that condo, there are two decks in the back of the condo. The HOA maintains the upper one, but I had to replace the lower one. So, just weird things like that that you should be aware of. The HOAs don't maintain the fences, like the front sidewalks. As an 80s condo, were getting all wonky and cracking and stuff, and it became a trip hazard. And so I asked the HOA, hey, are you going to fix this, or am I going to have to bring in somebody to fix it? Because I don't want a tenant to fall down and, hurt something. Anyway, so all that stuff you should be looking into. My name is Barb Schlinker. I am the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb has the buyers, and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And every week we talk about all different topics regarding real estate. Right now we're talking about the questions a buyer and a seller should know about owning a property within HOA. And next up, what we're going to talk about is some other information that you should do as a seller when you're getting ready to sell your home that has an HOA. So if you are thinking of making a move, we offer a free in-home consultation where I can show you what to do, what not to do to get your house ready for sale so that you get top dollar. Give you a really good idea what your home will sell for, the price range, give you a good idea how much you'll put in your pocket after all expenses. And then, of course, I'm going to show you all of the buyers that we can present your home to, including our exclusive buyers in waiting. We've got over 27,820 some buyers just on my little website. The buyers on Zillow, the buyers on Realtor.com, how we attract them. How do we attract the buyers associated with our citywide buyer agent network? And we talk about our guaranteed sale program and our worry-free move-up program. So if you are interested in that, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Barb, we're talking about the top questions that buyers and sellers should ask when they're considering selling their homes in an HOA. What are some other things that sellers can do to make sure that they reach their goals? Give us some more tips about homes within an HOA.
Well, first of all, I would talk to your insurance company about what kind of insurance you have on especially an attached building. Do you have that extra coverage that will cover you in case you have what they call a catastrophic issue like a hail, wind, fire, that kind of stuff? So make sure you really look into that. A lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to what their insurance covers. Sometimes it's not that much more expensive just to get that extra added thing in case you get a hailstorm that trashes all the roofs. At the very least, you're going to be covered. And I've seen it happen. I mean, I remember it was back in, I think it was 2015. There was a hailstorm right near my office, and I was inside Whole Foods across the street. And I had a newer car, so I came out, and it was at the end of May, and there was 6 inches of hail on my vehicle. You couldn't even walk outside. It hurt so bad. I had to wait inside until the storm was over, and it thrashed a lot of buildings around here. In fact, my title company used to work not too far from there. She was up on the third floor, and the hail was so heavy it actually collapsed the ceiling while they're working in the office. They're like, okay, we're out of here. So you want to know what your HOA covers, and then make sure that you're disclosing everything. So there are some management companies that will charge a ridiculous fee to get the HOA documents that you need to share to your buyer. For a fee like $400 or something like that. And oh, by the way, it says in the contract, maybe they'll put a deadline of when you can get them the HOA documents. But if you get it late, then they've got another 10 days to look at it. So you really don't want your deal in doubt all the way until the end of the transaction. So it's good to get that done up front. And most people have their own login to their HOA. They should be able to download all of the documents that you need at no cost because you own in there. So make sure you do that in advance and get that ready. And I can give you a checklist of everything that you need to have. And just pay attention to what's going on with people raising dues and why they're doing it. Another thing that's relatively new that they changed about HOA laws is metropolitan districts kind of fall under the HOA rules as far as disclosure because it is a mandatory monthly fee. They don't have the same ability to actually lien your house, I think, except that what happens is like if the water bill doesn't get paid, like places like Peyton and I think Banning Lewis Ranch, there are some payments that are required. And if you don't pay it, they send that bill over to the county and they assess it as a tax. So it will be paid out of closing one way or another. So we have to disclose those now because they could become a lien. And that's why we let everybody know what's going on with that. And then if you are selling in a community that has an HOA, just be prepared. I mean, some of these HOAs, if you ask them to send you the documents, if you want them quickly, they will charge a $250 rush fee, which is ridiculous if you want them in less than 3 weeks. So you can get it yourself because you are an owner in a HOA, and we help people do that as the part of our process. Just because we want to make the process go well for them and do everything on time. Also, don't be surprised at the closing table if they ask you to pay for swapping the HOA information from you to the buyer. There's some extraordinary fees that can happen. So if the agent doesn't really understand what's in paragraph 15, that can be a gotcha. Things like most HOAs charge what they call a HOA transfer fee, but there are some that also charge a fee to transfer from you to the buyer, another $400. So you got to watch for that and make sure that your agent's carefully reading the contract. and protecting you in the process. There's also all kinds of fees that the HOAs could charge. Make sure you're aware of them and make sure you disclose them. And that's part of what we do for our clients. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900. We love sitting down with home sellers and helping them get all the information so they can make the best decisions when selling their homes. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, host of the program. She's with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about how home ownership beats renting, plus Barb's hot new listings. You don't want to miss that.